How many years? How many years together now?
Too many.
Too many.
40.
Wow. Wow. Yep. All right. Seriously, 40?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. 40 years, and to borrow a name of a recent song and a new song, things are as fresh as ever, right?
Well, maybe fresher than they've been in a long time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why are things, it seems like you guys have never stopped, and I know there's been constant music and constant touring and constant activity, but it seems like a big rebirth in so many ways right now. Why now?
It was now or never, really. Because as another song on our record says, later is now. Meaning, the gig is up, jig is up, it's time, this is it. Fish or cut bait, or whatever they say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But you felt that impetus. This isn't something you probably had to do. I know you've been very successful. This wasn't.
Or maybe it is.
It wasn't? Okay.
Well, from a genetic imperative point of view, yes.
Yeah.
People need this Devo music now.
Well, we think so. We think we're as relevant as any band today because of what happened, which is de-evolution was real. It sounded like a far-out theory in 1978, 1980, but guess what? It happened.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody showed any of you guys in 1980 the crystal ball of now, 2010, I think you'd be just like us. You wouldn't have believed it. You would have thought it was a perverted kind of like mean sci-fi guy's vision of a dystopia in the future, you know, over the top, outrageous. But guess what? It happened.
Mm-hmm. And yet people obviously clung to your guys' beliefs and ideals, and you've had fans for all these many years, and you guys had foresight to,
so to speak,
predict all this 40 years ago then.
And now it's a prophecy fulfilled, as they say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we're here to celebrate with everybody.
Talk about the celebration, because you say celebrate with everybody. This is a very inclusive project by way of everything you're doing with this
Right.
with this record and with this tour and with the look and everything you guys are going on. Where did that idea spring from?
It was time for Devo to play ball, because this was our last chance to do something we never did, which is play ball.
Mm-hmm.
Not be isolated, not be hermetically sealed. You know, no, we're no longer shocking. We're of the culture. We're not aliens out here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. At one time we had to protect ourselves from the culture in a way for people to understand what we were about. We had to be very protective about the concept of Devo and what Devo was. And now it's kind of like everybody's got the idea. They all understand it. They know that it's happened. You know, people don't get upset when we say the planet's devolving. You know, now they go, woohoo!
That's true. When we ask,
We're there too.
how many people here tonight think de-evolution is real at Coachella, right? And it's like 10,000 people go,
Is that joy a good thing?
yeah.
Well, yeah, because then what that means is that they have a reference point for what we're talking about. So if you say, you know, you might be able to do something to have a positive effect on your own life, if not anybody else's, but maybe on everybody's. You know, it's
Yeah, and it's just, I think, any catharsis of the truth, right? Of like getting it over with. It's like you can move on. It's like quit fighting about whether climate change is happening. It happened. Just it's happening. Now let's go from there. Or like when Bill Clinton finally admitted that Monica smoked a cigar. You know, it was good. We could get it over with.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same thing with de-evolution.
Mm-hmm. So you've had this song study and you picked your tracks, and this album's eminent and the tour is eminent. How freeing is that feeling to bring in the fan base now that it's happened? Is it a good feeling to kind of
yeah, it was something that never was possible before, and now it is, and we really kind of enjoy it. It kind of makes me feel like when we did our version of Satisfaction, you know, 10 years afterwards, and we're able to you know, do our own take on a classic song. It's kind of like now people understand what we're talking about, so their input is you know, encouraged.
Well, it's kind of interesting, too. It's kind of entertaining. Other people think they have their idea of what Devo is. So we let it in. We wanted to hear what it was, you know? It's great.
How proud are you of this music that kind of encapsulates everything you're talking about? These are great songs, and you guys have a right to really enjoy this period, it seems like. Talk about the new music.
It's kind of like, for me, if somebody just took a pair of scissors and edited out 20 years and let us seamlessly pick up from where we left off when we stopped collaborating and writing new music, you know?
To me, it's like, what if Devo was the Octomom, but we had 12 kids instead of 8, you know? It's just a miracle. Beautiful miracle.
Were you sure this would all come together the way it used to?
No?
Yeah, that'd be kind of silly. You'd never be sure of anything. It started slow with, you know, a few creaks and like riding a bike again after you have
Yeah,
it.
and we're saying it started slow, but then at the same time, you got to remember, how long did it take us to be able to record one song in the old days? Sometimes it took weeks before we could get back to that car wash that was frozen over that we were allowed to use to set up equipment in and record. I remember when we did Satisfaction, it took a couple of weeks before the snow was clear enough that we could get over there. So.
It's still the same joy when you guys are in this room or when you're on a stage. Is that vibe the same as from those days playing your first gigs?
As much as the music is responsible for that. I mean, you know, the humiliations of the aging process are not to be discounted here, but you know,
you guys
the
look
music
damn
is
good, though, I have to
the
say.
music is pretty great. We like music.
I know. Nobody knows we're dead.
Yet.
No, far from it. The fan base is huge, and you guys have toured recently with your I know that you had the Freedom of Choice and Are We Not Men albums,
Right.
and now with this new tour coming and everything. Talk about your fans and what you've seen. As far as people coming to shows, you're probably getting kids coming out. You're probably getting people, you know, old guys like me and older. What's that
That is the
like?
nicest thing. We have two demographics, two distinct demographics, almost like parents and their children. Because the 20-something demographic learned about Devo by surfing the internet, seeing all our old clips on YouTube, picking up on TV appearances, videos, and got into it because it actually relates to music being made now from groups that they like, who cite us as influences, like the Ting Tings and Hot Chip and LCD Sound System and the Kills and you know, Passion
Yeah,
Pit.
you know, it seems also, and tell me what you think about this. Seems like they seem smarter now, and they seem sexier and better looking. And you know what? A lot of them, it's like,
Especially when they like us.
it's between the time they come in and the time they leave. It's like a lot of them seem a lot smarter by the time they're leaving, and they look a lot better at the end of the night than they did it when they were just standing in line out in front of the venue.
So the key is to buy a ticket. That's what we're.
I think so.
We're gonna get.
No, but
I
it
think
is
there's
nice to
something to
have
that.
two demographics. It is nice. It is.
You had your Devo project just a few years back for kids that the Devo 2.0.
Right.
Remember?
Right, for Disney.
Correctly for Disney. Yeah. There has always been a youth thing with the band. The music plays well to.
Well, there's something infantile in our music.
Yeah, young at heart, I think is what he meant by that. But yeah, it's, you know, I mean, it was a little weird for me because I adopted a couple kids right before we did Devo 2.0, and we weren't really playing a lot of shows back then. So their first introduction to Devo music was through that DVD. And so when they finally did come see Devo on stage, they were kind of like, "Dad, why are you playing that little kid's music?" And I'd say, "We're Devo 1.0.
Talk about how humor plays into all this, because you guys have such a unique sense of humor, and you're talking about serious things, but you're not afraid to get crazy with it and kind of skewer it through your own vision. Talk about how that works. Obviously, that's innate in so many ways, but
Well, humor keeps me from becoming homicidal.
even your presentation of the song today.
That's a beautiful way to think about it, too.
But is it to mask the darkness of the whole
Yeah,
deal?
for me.
If you
Okay,
remember,
sure.
When we're watching the song study press conference, for instance, and it's just brilliant in so many ways. Just if you talk about just the conception of all that.
Well, we keep doing what we did from the beginning, basically, you know. Our core aesthetic and message has never changed. There was really no reason to, because it's not a trendy message. And we never looked like hip, you know, when everybody else had tight leather jeans with socks in their crotches and platform shoes and long hair. We had yellow suits on, you know, so nobody can ever go, oh yeah, those trendy guys.
Yeah, that's true. True.
You know.
Levi's never did a special edition of the yellow plastic suits.
No. And so that's a
Or
good thing
juicy.
for us. You know, we never got caught in that, oh, those were the guys with the skinny ties, you know. So there's a timelessness in what we did do that was right.
And yet you guys have a new look. It's not. This isn't a throwback. You guys are still pushing forward. There's some new outfits. You went with the blue energy domes and
Right.
new things. Talk about how that makes it fresh for you guys now. This is a new presentation. This is a new Devo in some ways.
Yeah, it's the mature Devo, and we made age-appropriate clothing, and it's made of a special titanium thread fabric that
True.
it reflects as much light as like a freeway sign at night, so that we glow on stage almost like holograms. You can't
Yeah.
really.
Should one of us wander off into the street, you know, and a car comes by with their headlights on, it'll scare the crap out of them right before they smash us to smithereens.
It helps with weight issues because you can't see where the illusion of glowing light stops and the real body starts.
What's touring like for you guys? I took a little peek around and I see some song lyrics for songs from throughout the Devo repertoire. How great it is to play a song like Planet Earth and Peekaboo and mix it up with something new.
And that's what we're doing now in this new set that we did at Coachella. We just wove them together, and people didn't know, most of the people in the crowd didn't know which songs were new, which I thought was good.
That speaks to the timeless nature of all the Devo songs? Or?
Well, you know, a lot of groups from our era, if they exist at all, and if they come back with a record, there's the music you liked, and then there's this new stuff, and it sounds like a pale imitation, all right? It's like, oh, please don't play another one of those. But we made sure that didn't happen.
But you guys couldn't be doing what you're doing now, I would think, unless there was new music to go out and play.
That's right.
So when you're out there singing something new that maybe you only wrote 6 months ago within the last year, just what's that feeling like for guys that have been doing this for 40 years, knowing you still have those same chops must be a great feeling.
Yeah, that's fun. That's
Yeah.
good.
You've probably only gotten better as musicians as well.
That's probably true, too. We make less mistakes. So there's more fun on stage because we're not worried about, are we going to play right tonight?
What's a song you would never play again? Is there one in the back catalog that
Never play again.
for various
Well,
reasons?
we
just-
never play again.
Well, probably it's one we'd never played in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, I think any song that we played, we would play again.
Yeah, we like our repertoire. I can think of one we'd never play again.
Okay.
Remember when we played at Zsa Zsa Gabor's house for a party for somebody? I can't remember what the deal was.
Yeah,
This is true. And we were standing at the top of a waterfall in the living room.
yeah. And the power blew out.
We attempted to play Funky Groove Thing, I think. Didn't we? Am I wrong?
No, we did.
We did.
But the
And
power blew out.
it did, well, then that's one other reason
Yeah.
not to play. But that was, I think we'd never do Funky Groove Thing again.
Okay.
Or maybe swelling itching brain.
Oh, we'd do that again.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, we'd do that again.
Is there, since we're talking favorites and things like that, and people got to pick their favorites, is there a personal favorite of each of you that, no matter how many times you play it, always?
Well,
gives you
swelling
pleasure?
itching brain,
I mean, of any song or of this new record?
anything.
Both.
Oh,
You can do both.
Gosh, I mean, Uncontrollable Urge and Beautiful World, I'd never get tired of playing. And on the new record, What We Do,
You gonna be playing any songs live that didn't make this cut?
that's hard to say. We haven't finalized that list,
Yeah, we're still working on it.
but possibly.
Maybe we should ask a focus group about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite record cover?
It's still got to be Chi Rodriguez.
But you know what? Saying that, maybe it's the 45B stiff single
Oh,
sleeve
yeah.
where it had the unadulterated Chi
Yeah.
Rodriguez face. That was
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. How long do you see this going? If this all goes the way it should, and this looks to be a banner year for Devo, how far have you let yourself plan the future?
Well, we're about into midlife now. I figure we've gone 40 years so far. We got another 80 years to go.
And we'll put out a farewell record, be called Back to the Cave.
Yeah,
And
when that's,
yeah, it's just a black cover.
We'll put one out every year for the
with,
next 79 years.
5 sets of lenticular 3D eyes blinking at you from inside the cave.
and how busy are you? I know you've been busy with your art and with soundtracks and things on a constant basis, and now there's so many different design things you're doing, and I noticed the rugs and so many fun things. How much is that still a part of your life, or does that take a backseat now to Devo for a year or so?
Well, Devo's at the front of the list, but that said, it's like I got to, I've learned time management in the last 10 or 20 years, and so there's ways to do everything. You know, you can take your whole recording studio on a laptop with you, so
Mm-hmm.
I can be in a holding pen somewhere, and I can still be writing for a film.
And you can Skype your rug maker.
Exactly, exactly.
Has the whole process gotten easier? Have rehearsals gotten easier due to technology? Is it a simpler process?
Rehearsals, I don't know about that.
No, that's the grunt work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, the part that we dislike the most is that usually we don't have to rehearse for ourselves as much as we have to rehearse for a new crew, because if you're not touring 12 months a year, your crew goes off and does other things too. It's like corralling ants sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to work in new people.
Mm-hmm. But the bond you guys have, you can just put that into words, what's kept kind of the glue of the core Devo guys together all this time.
Well, we have 2 sets of brothers, and
That
everybody knows what they're supposed to do.
You guys figured that out a while ago. Huh?
Yeah.
Any important stuff we wanted to get to? Is there a craziest gig? Hopefully some of these new ones will be just as crazy as those in the past, but when you guys look back and you guys are talking, is there one show that you always kind of come to mind that things went nuts?
Well, there's crazy great and crazy hideous. There was the Nebworth Festival in England in June of '78.
That was both crazy great and crazy hideous.
Richard Branson at Virgin talked us into playing this festival that was all like old school bands like Genesis and Alabama.
Yeah, we went on stage right after a band called Alabama, where this big 300-pound drummer was like waving a rebel flag
Confederate
back and
flag.
forth to end the set, and then it was like, hello, it's Devo, time for Devo now.
And we came out in what they called the boiler suits, white paper jumpsuits with orange knee pads, orange elbow pads, and orange skateboard protective helmets.
They looked like rugby helmets in a way, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were kind of...
And launched right into like Smart Patrol, and the crowd it just sounded like the pit in the movie Island of Lost Souls, when all the subhumans, and they started throwing things at us, but the stage was so high, it's like 10 feet high, and they're on the grass, and there's 400,000 people, and they start hitting other people in the crowd with the stuff they're throwing at us. So then we start watching fights in the crowd between people while we're playing, and we get basically booed off stage quickly.
We probably should have been wearing rebel flags that day, but we couldn't have done it.
But back in those days,
wasn't our-
there were probably a lot of
wasn't
punk shows. Some of that stuff was just going on. No matter what.
We were lightning rods for hostility.
Well, Richard Branson, this is great. This is great. This is the best publicity.
Now that people get it, do you miss some of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's more like we're relics, to certain young kids, and that kind of sucks, But
Now it'd be like if he threw water on somebody or walked out onto their table, they'd be so gratified. Like, he ruined my steak dinner and it went all in my lap with my beer. It was so great.
But you're not afraid. You're not afraid still to switch things up. I've been to many Devo shows and seen a lot of the films, and there's always something a little bit scary about the whole thing. That kind of there was that edge that made it all
Really?
work in a good way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, live there's a rawness.
Well, I mean,
You transform
you're
yourself
looking
and-
at these old guys doing like crazy stuff. They could hurt themselves.
Never
Or
worried.
somebody, what if we landed on one of them, you know? Could hurt
Exactly.
somebody.
Well, I mean, the last time when Mark went out into the crowd, you know, he would ritualistically go out in the crowd on a song called Praying Hands. And he'd ask, what's your left hand doing? You know, what's your right hand doing? And when we did these album recreation shows, it was like, we got some kind of modern answers of kind of like crowds that have grown up on porno. We never got these answers before. It's like, what's your right hand doing? Fucking you in the ass.
Like, okay, well, all
He's
right.
like, oh,
Moving on. Moving on.
jeez.
Back to the show.
Yeah.
What's the greatest thing about Devo still being Devo and still existing?
That. You know, we're not dead yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you look back even a few years, could you imagine you're doing this now? Was this a planned thing, or was there something that clicked a year ago? This is, we got to put this all back together again for the reasons we talked about when we first started.
Yeah, well, when a doctor gives you 2 years to live, then
Yeah,
you do it.
Between that and the Alzheimer's, it's like, then it's like, why was it we stopped doing this?
What's the
We
name of that
forgot.
band?
Yeah, so, you know.
We did grow up eating out of cans in Ohio, so we know that Alzheimer's on the way.
Right, was it, what,
Mhm.
lead cans or
Tin cans.
tin cans? We didn't eat the cans.
No.
And what are you guys eating now? If someone was to come backstage at a Devo show,
We don't allow food back there, really.
No.
It stinks. They bring in the cheese platter. Oh, man.
They plan on bringing those in like at about 8 in the morning when you have a show that doesn't go on till 11 at night, and they turn the little portable heater on right next to it.
And you think there's a yeast infection by the time you get to your
Right, it
dressing room.
smells like 400 pairs of dirty pantyhose back there.
you guys figured it out a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Pleasure.
Sure.
Good talking to you.
That's all you need.
All right.
I'll tell you, this is probably, if I was gonna, this is an old synth, this is an old analog. If I was gonna recommend, if somebody said they wanted to buy one synth to have, to play with at the house, this is like the synth I would pick. It's called a TBS-1 by Oberheim. I used this one when I worked on the Wes Anderson movie. I used it with, it's an old Devo thing, but it's got great sounds in it. And it's all old school sequencing where there's no quantize involved, so you can get all sorts of so it's got a great sound. In this room, there's a couple other good synths. I have to tell you, you're about a year late because I took and moved a lot of stuff to storage so that we could rehearse in this room. This is the Devo rehearsal room. But this one here is pretty nice. Some people think this is maybe the first synthesizer ever made. It's called an Ondioline. They're from France. They were built in the late 20s. But this one has a special meaning to me because in 1980 when Devo was writing the album Freedom of Choice, we were working at some place in Hollywood called Modern Music. It was like a bunch of storefronts that they just painted the windows so you couldn't see in, and bands could set up in each little storefront. And there was one really big, like, ex-grocery store that I think is now Amoeba Music attached to it. And Pink Floyd was in there rehearsing, and they were like just about to go on tour. When we were there, like the second or third week we were there working, I saw them, they started moving all their gear out into these big semis, and they were like making room so that they could, pare it down and try and get rid of one semi and only go out with two or whatever they were going to go out with. And in the process, they were throwing all these old road cases away, and they were throwing gear out, and this thing, they came out with it, and I said, wait a minute, I said, what are you going to do with that? And they said, we're throwing this away, we got to lighten the load. And I said, can I have it? And they said, be my guest.
Wow.
So this Ondioline still has the tape that Pink Floyd put on it so that they could get their sound settings that they were using when they played it. And it's a pretty great instrument. You would know it from the song Runaway, Del Shannon, an old 60s song, and it's got that kind of like nasally mosquito sound. And that's what this one sounds like. But what's great about this, it's the only synth I've ever seen where to get tremolo, vibrato, to get vibrato on the keys, you go like this. You wiggle the whole keyboard. It's really cool. And it's got the oldest ribbon controller I've ever seen.
And what Devo songs has this turned?
We use that on Sioux Balls. And just, on a version of Sioux Balls that we played. And also on the Devo Easy Listen to Music. It got used on 2 or 3 things.
Very cool. Very nice.
Let's see, down here, that's from a synth. Oh, there's some good mics here. About 8 or 9 years ago, I had a windfall where a house that I was buying, the neighbor came over and said, a rock fell off of the hill and hit my car while I was parked in your parking lot. And I go, well, what the hell are you doing there for? I'm sorry that happened, but what are you doing there? And he goes, well, I want you to pay for my car to be fixed. I'm not paying for your car to be fixed. You shouldn't be parking on my property. He goes, yeah, I got a, what did they call it? A leniency, or what's it called when you have the right to go across somebody's property and use it. He had a easement.
Yes,
He had an
I dealt with
easement
it,
to my
yeah.
property to park there. But then I said, well, and I also have to protect your car, some rocks will fall on it, and I was kind of bummed. And I called my realtor and said, why didn't you tell me that stuff? And then she called the title company, and it turned out they had made a mistake. So to make a short story long, I ended up with some money, and I was like, oh, surprise money. And I went down to Guitar Center, and I had found this amplifier. Oh no, it's upstairs. It's not over here, but it's upstairs. But I found 00117 of twin reverbs ever made. It was the 17th twin reverb ever made in the mid-50s, and it was. And after I bought it, I started getting calls from both Keith Richards and Eric Clapton, because that's their amp of choice, and both of them, Keith Richards was, I have number 21 and 22, and I want 17, so just tell me how much. And I was like, I'm not selling it, I just got it, I want to keep it. And then Eric Clapton said, I have number, he had like number 46 or something like that, and I want number 17. They all wanted my amp.
You joined a special club then with them?
Yeah, so I joined this, so now I kind of have to never sell it now, because I'm curious to see how many people will be vexed by that.
Right. Get you guys all around a table with the amp.
So that's upstairs, I can show you that when we
Okay,
go
very
upstairs.
good.
Sorry,